Okay, it's cold.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Nothing like the middle of summer up there, hey?
12 degrees
Oh
in the
my
middle of
gosh.
summer.
So yeah, it's literally the exact same as the middle of winter here.
You have an excuse. We don't have
uh,
an excuse.
yeah. Well, some good notes on ZvP and stuff in there with the info. So, have you been doing the quick third hatch the last week or so, or?
Yeah, 30, 32.
Okay, 30-32. But you've been going Overlord speed afterwards, as well as sacrificing an Overlord.
I've carried on doing the build where I leave 2 on gas, so I have the gas for overload speed, but then sometimes
Mm-hmm.
not getting it if I know what's happening. But it, like I wrote in the note, it's feeling less helpful because it doesn't let me identify the Stargate timing anyway.
Yeah.
So it only lets me tell the difference between an adept build and a DT build.
Yeah. So I think it's one of those things where definitely we want to scrap it and just be more efficient. And the thing is, it is very difficult to tell the difference between adepts and archons, DTs, even when you play against really high level ones. People are purposefully, deceitful with it. they'll try and hide info. Um, so like recently, I've been playing against one of these Korean amateurs who just like plays just like Zest. Like everything is very tight, but it's very easy to spot. Same as Zest because he's not as focused on misinformation normally. So for him, I can just see, oh, like all I need to do is just check the gas in his main, and I can see, oh, there's only 2 workers on it. He's going Glaive Adepts. Like,
Mhm.
that's such a sharp tell, though, where it's like, wait, realistically, do they need to only have 2 on the gas in the main to be doing a Glaive Adept? Not really, right? That's such a minor thing. So, you can get someone doing Glaive Adepts and they've still got 3 on each gas, and they're still doing 4-gate Glaive Adept or something like that, right? With a Prism. So I think it's, honestly, my approach to that is to kind of just try to be safe against both. And it's like, if you know which one it is or you get a good read, that's a bonus, right? But yeah, so I would generally be trying to get either the very fast lair, because that kind of blocks the DTs, or just get the spores
The
at, yeah.
330 lap.
Yeah, basically as quickly as you can if you're going to rely on that for the DTs. I mean, if you're warping in the lair any later than what? Because it's a 57-second upgrade. If you start 3-minute 40 lair, that means it's finished at 4:37. So if you start an overseer at 4:37, you will usually be able to keep your hatchery alive and everything like that, unless they go for a really, really fast DT warp in. So if you can start it by 4 minutes 40, then your lair is okay. A lot of people prefer to just go the spores, and especially with people kind of doubling down on the adept defense, where they go, oh, if I know it's adepts, I'm not going to have a lair started at all. I'm just making a ton of roaches and really like doubling down on that defense. So it kind of comes down to your own preference. For me, I prefer the lair because I like overseers against DTs. It's just, if I make one overseer, it's such a cheap way of dealing with it, and then I get the quick roach speed, which makes it easier to kind of get rid of the adepts from my side of the map. Which one of those do you think meshes better with your style? Is it the quicker lair or the spore crawlers?
The spore crawlers. I've been doing the Ling Roach defense against adepts.
Mm-hmm.
The new one. Lambo did a video on it,
I have not watched
rather
that.
rather than just roaches.
So, I mean, okay,
The
yeah,
40 drone 4-minute roach warren.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. I really dislike the super high level Zergling response that a lot of people are doing at the moment. So I'm sure I'm going to watch this and go, cool, I'm going to learn some stuff. And at the same time, probably not like it, because I do think it rests on, very slight execution. Where if you make a small mistake, Zerglings are pretty shit um, against it. So I think it can work, for sure. It just comes down to what we want to focus on as a player, and that's definitely not my specialty. So you've been doing the... How many Zergers do you normally build? Like 16, 20 first to start out?
Just between 4 minutes, about 40, 42 drones, and when the roach warren finishes. So not a set number.
Okay.
Then 12 roaches until
Yeah.
Well, more if they carry on attacking, but by default 12.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna take a look at that defense there in the back. Should we just start up a game and maybe start with the Glaive Adepts, or uh, I mean, I've got a whole bunch of different scenarios, and Sure has already kind of briefed on all of them, including, you know, the double adept at the start. So what's a map which is difficult for... let's just do Everdream. That's one of the more, you know, not too long rush distances. So we can start off there.
So for the scouting, the Overlord's going to sit by the natural forever, or until I see a certain number of units come out.
Yeah, so this is the question we wanted to have. So there's two ways of doing this, right? Yeah, okay. Because at the moment, you said, like, you could send the Overlord into the main. Okay, let's just write a new little heading here. In terms of scouting, I mean, I do think the best scouting option without Overlord speed is just to OV immediately skirts the edge of the main base. I think doing that immediately is important, because otherwise you can't get over there once the Stalker's out if you haven't already got over to that side. And then, you know, I always like to do two lings. Some people like to just do one. Two lings try to bypass Adept and get into the base. And I actually like to split those two lings. One goes either side of the map, just in case, you know, a lot of people try and intercept the Zerglings coming across. I like to split them up to make sure one gets past. And that way your Zerglings will see kind of, hey, they're going to get into the base, right? If the Stalker's up in the main. And then you'll see the tech that way. If they're blocking the natural, the Overlord can sacrifice through the main, right? If wall blocked, send Ovi into main. And even if it gets sniped down after scouting, it's fine. It's much cheaper than Overlord speed, because you're not investing in that gas and upgrade so much earlier.
So you mean the second Ovi scouts the edge of the main?
No, this is your first. This is your first Overlord.
You can't see the gateways if you do that.
So you just check the front at the very start, and that's all. You don't need to see what's coming out of the gateways, because final scenario, if your two Zerglings just waltz in and there's no units there, you automatically know that oh wait, they're not dealing with this. That means the second Adept. So if they don't deal with the Zerglings, if they don't respond to the lings, you know, go up to 12 lings or whatever. What do you think? 12 lings for two Adepts, I think, is super safe.
10 is fine.
Two Adepts coming across the map. Yeah. So yeah, basically it's just, well, your two lings are going to be causing havoc because they're picking off probes and being annoying and stuff. There's no third gateway unit out yet by that time. And you're seeing all the tech. And yeah, it'll be basically, the way it naturally times out off a hatch first is your two lings go in as just before usually, or just after, depending on how it times out, the second gateway unit pops out. So usually it's just before the second gateway unit pops out, right? Those two lings walk in, which means that Adept has to kind of chase them down, follow them down, right? And yeah, likewise, if you see a Stalker at all early, or if the Stalker comes over and tries to shoot your first Overlord, it can use the high ground, low ground dynamic to escape, or at least by a lot of time, right? Before it dies, and that also tells you no to Adepts, right? If there's a Stalker out, which is really nice. So yeah, so it's the first Overlord, touches the natural, goes immediately along the cliff of the main base to go, you know, so it's there. Two lings from the natural will go across the map to try to sacrifice in. That should give you 100% scouting information, or maybe so 98%.
Yeah. Pool finishers make 6 lings and 2 go across the map.
Normally just 4. You only normally need 2 to clear the third base, but if your opponents are really obsessed with blocking it, I mean, they can get a pylon, get a cybercore. At that point, I'd just take the other third base, though, because they're investing a ton of money for that.
Yeah.
The other thing to think about here is with 2 Adept pressures, if you can kill those 2 Adepts, like, or if we think we'll get a chance to, Ling Flood can kill them a lot of the time. So it's definitely a reactive option there. If I see someone being a bit cavalier with their 2 Adepts, sometimes I will just be like, okay, let's start massing Lings, and if they do end up going back and I've built 16 lings, well, maybe I just pressure the wall, look for denial on the third. But depending on the meta, or what I know about my opponent, or if I catch those 2 adepts, I can just keep holding that Zergling key down and just kill their wall because they've got 1 gateway unit and nothing else. So it is very dangerous if they YOLO those 2 adepts and just throw them away.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something to just keep in mind for the meta, because you will get points in the meta when no one's ling flooding. And Protoss are like, cool, I can just throw every unit away as harassment. And you're like, wait a second, there should be a cost to this. Indeed there is. So we've got Everdream up here. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of that scouting. Does the scouting sound good? Does that sound confident? Any other questions? Just like simulate that in your head a little bit to make sure you're confident on that scouting option.
So, on this map, Overlord goes to the front of the natural and is skirting around the main base. And what time should it try to poke in to see what the tech is?
So it's literally just decided by your Zerglings. So as the Zerglings arrive, they're normally what gets into scout. Most of the time that should happen. But if your opponent's blocking the wall, then the Overlord goes in. And that's it.
Okay.
So most of the time that Overlord doesn't do shit, I would say. But sometimes you get people who are just really obsessed where like they leave their first adept, they build a second gateway in the wall really early. That's when the Overlord comes into action. Awesome.
Okay. Right.
Sweet as, we good?
Try this.
Alright, right. Go Zerg and...
sorry, yes.
Just giving him instructions real quick. Alright, I think he should be good. It's just just making sure he's organized and ready and stuff. And he should be. Alright, we're starting. He's
okay.
bloody fighting with his avatar in chat, not realizing, of course, there's a 2-minute delay. I'm like, sure, we're ready. We're not. It sounds to him like we're in the middle of a discussion, because obviously 2-minute delay today. I've got EPT on later, but awesome. All right, man. So yeah, get in there. Good luck. Have fun. And let's kick some Protoss bots.
Right.
Hope you guys are having a good time. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Yeah, I'm doing good. Yes, I'm using the right-hand side of the keyboard. Am I using shift for queuing actions? So I have 3 of my buttons swapped around. I use an experimental version of the Core Plus. As always, PyLogic, if you want answers about the Core, please type !Core in chat. I am the literal worst person to ask. I don't know shit, mate. So there's a lot of different versions of the Core, and I don't know that much about all of them. And there's actual hotkey nerds out there who, spent time creating these hotkey setups, optimizing them. They actually think about all the little optimizations and they update it to make it better whenever they think of a new idea. I don't have any of that. So yeah, people like to ask me about the Core. I don't have a hard and fast don't ask me about the Core rule anymore. I used to have that. But I'm just not as kind of, knowledgeable as a lot of these other guys. So it's just you will get a better discussion with them for sure. Maha, thanks for the 8-month resub. Ryan with the 13 months. Dr. Cheeks with the 15 months. For those who don't know, in terms of actual keys, so yeah, I use I've got list, shift, and control. All the 3 keys, all their roles are swapped around in the bottom corner of my beautiful Corsair K70 MK2 RGB keyboard. I'm actually going to tab out of this game. Oh, you know what, guys? I realize this is windowed full screen mode. I gotta remember to fix that. This does mean I can tab out right now, though. Hey, can you guys still? Oh, you guys can still see that while I'm tabbed out. That's cool. So I can actually tab out of this monitor. But yeah, essentially, those keys are all swapped around. Now let me just take a look at Lambo's VOD real quickly here while this is going on. For anyone who wants Lambo's VOD, you should absolutely go follow this, and yeah, you should check out the link in chat. Big thanks to Dr. Cheeks as well there. And check out his channel, because Lambo's a very high level Zerg. It's great that he's putting out tutorial content. He pulled off gas. Good. Alright. I will finish watching that video later, actually. I know that I'm not a big fan of this. I think it can work, though, even though the Roach Horn is a little bit late. So, we'll see exactly how we go. Anyways. What's up, Slossum? Yeah, tomorrow. At the start of tomorrow, I'm casting the IC4. But there's already a new IC4 topic up. So it's the same. We're keeping the exact same schedule for submitting. So guys, there is a new IC4 topic. Please do submit your replays. Just obviously casting all weekend. I had to move things around so that I could maintain some semblance of humanity. Now that Zergling should have gone in the main, but it's okay. The other one got in. And that's exactly what we want to see. Yeah. So, and this is why this is so reliable. This Overlord, I would have had it over here a bit more, but good enough.
Your warriors have engaged the enemy.
So he really needs to be droning right now. We got 7 lava there. There we go. Okay. Slightly delayed on that round, but no biggie. Only 2 Zerglings at home right now. So I would definitely be building 6lings here and getting rid of that Adept, but, well, 4 more Zerglings. But so far, so good. Looking fantastic. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the default response to the Glaive Adepts. So let's take a look here. Response to Twilight. One size fits all. I really like the one size fits all response here. So we're going to see exactly. Here it looks like he's going, okay, you know, 4-minute. Second gas plus Roach Horn. Some more lings, and then he goes 420 spores is what he'd said, which I think is a totally okay way of doing it. You know, I honestly feel like these ling responses are I look at it and I go, this is shit. That's my honest inclination. I then go, okay, well, Pig pros are making it work. Sue made it work versus Trap in some games. Is it actually shit? No, but it rests on such a fine edge where if you fuck up the slightest bit, you will die. And I think you don't give yourself much of an opportunity to get ahead. I mean, there also should be Ling sitting on the 3rd. So, game 1, you've got to leave at least a Zergling. Should be at least... Well, are we not... There we go. Should be at least 1 Ling on... each 3rd base option to deny it. Oh, you can't. The roaches weren't on top. I mean... Yeah. That's actually worked out quite well, but... I feel like if the Protoss just keeps warping in Adepts, it's so hard to not end up behind after this. So anyways, what I don't like about it is the fact that you're building Lings versus Adepts, and Adepts basically, like, have really seedy fantasies about getting into a bathtub with a pack of Zerglings. Like, Adepts just, yeah. Every 80s movie where you look inside a, you know, they're like trying to, oh, we're trying to peek in the girl's bathroom, that sort of fucking creepy weird shit that used to be super normal. Well, Adepts think that about Zerglings. They're like, oh, yeah, let's look in the fucking Zergling change room, yeah. And you're like, okay, this is weird, but it's Adept specialty. So, I mean, it worked out quite nicely there, but, yeah, I think one of the issues you find is if they just kind of chill with their Adept pressure, rotate around a little bit, take a 3rd base at the same time, it's kind of hard to drone up. So, honestly, it looked good there. And Latte has already been... or Latte-less, has already been practicing this and getting good at it. So, you know, I'm not looking at this going, wow, this is so shit. I mean, if you're delaying your lair, which is kind of the whole specialty of this response, well, those roaches are not rotating at all, which is... Come on, they're gonna get down.
Your creep tumor's under
Gotta
attack.
get up.
Nice
Gotta get
strategy.
down. I don't know why he's building more Zerglings right now. He doesn't have any vision on the other side of the map. But yeah, the third base went up like uncontested. So the thing is, that could have gone up faster and that would have been a problem. As things are now, I think this feels totally fine for us. As the Zerg, like I'd be pretty happy with this situation. He's not really focus firing the Prism at all, and he's not moving his roaches particularly well to keep up with things. He's also missed overlords on these edges.
PM.
So, OVs on edges of the map to keep an eye on Prism. Because you get 5 queens, that is one of the big powers of this, and if they do fuck up and like expose their early adepts, you just can surround them, right? Which is cool. So, oh, that's dead. If it actually steered around, Latte is not microing. But, oh well. So the problem now is we're just going all in with Roach Ravager. I don't think that was necessary, you know? So 0 follow-up scouting. Should have made an Overseer with queens to snipe obs. I mean, I think we could have played a totally normal game from here, right? So what about this idea of Roach, Ravager, counterattack?
Evolution complete.
I would look at this and say,
Go
not
to
terrible
location.
as a general choice, right? So what is that? Great for hitting someone before they get Storm, etc. Terrible for attacking through Stalker Sentry. So Stalker Sentry is the best, most flexible defensive composition. Alright, that worked out pretty well. Besides the end, of course.
Of course.
So, but that worked out really well there. So I mean, I was like kind of, looking at it. I think we forgot to put on second gas the entire time.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Okay, that was a mistake. Good. Just double checking that wasn't some sort of advanced adaptation. Kind of worked out okay though. You got a decent surround with the Zerglings. Maybe could have been slightly more decisive with that. Definitely something where, I still look at that and I go, oh, this is an odd response, but I think it's fine. You look practiced with it. You look tight. You got those spores down as the kind of backup just in case. You did build a spore at each base at 420, right? Pretty sure that's what you went with that game.
I only did that because you said don't try to tell the difference. Just,
I think it's better.
Link gets in, sees the Twilight, and spores go down at that time.
I think the one size fits all and just focus on our execution is way more important. Is like, let's just actually hit our economy, because there's so many people who even go glaives and then they still hit DTs at like 520 or something like that, like pretty fast DTs anyway. You're like, oh, there's like 6 adepts hanging out. This is not the normal count of adepts, and you're like, oh, I better fucking put spores down right now. Like, there's some real weird variations that people do. So Stalker Sentry is the best flexible defensive composition in the game, right? Just because they can just always add more force fields and stuff, right? Like if you can get them with a surround, force fields nowhere as good, right? But it's just that Stalkers and Sentries just, like, I as a general rule, I would just never attack into a Stalker Sentry player. Because I'm like, oh, you're building the Roaches of Protoss. Cool. Like, they're not going to be good the longer the game goes, necessarily. So I personally would never try and counterattack into that, and I would kind of just want to progress to the next stages. Now that does bring up, though, I forget, what's your normal composition later on in the game in ZvP? Are you a Hydra Bane guy?
I was going with Ravager Bane, but
Is that your standard comp? Like if the game's pretty chill?
That seems a lot worse now than it used to be. That hasn't been working recently for me.
I think it's still totally fine. I don't know. I feel like Ravager Bane, like, definitely the Banes take, what, 2 extra hits to kill an Immortal or an Archon, 1 more to kill a Stalker. Everyone's obsessed with Stalkers. Definitely, I mean, I'm enjoying my time as a Lurker player right now, because everyone's like, we just go Stalkers. And I'm like, sure about that, buddy? Like, I am going lurkers, and they're like, oh, it turns out stalkers get destroyed by lurkers. To be honest, stalkers can play quite fine against lurkers. They've just got to be really, good at controlling the map and positioning, which a lot of people aren't, I guess. They're used to being able to just kind of defend, survive one big Ravager Bane attack, and then they're okay. I do think Ravager Bane still has a real power to it, though. So I think the ability to crash in and kind of get on top of stuff and also hit those worker lines as well can be really big. Obviously, I think either of those styles from there is totally fine. I think you're in a really good position if we just kept droning up and scouting. And especially, we should have left, even at the start, one Zergling at each of the third base attempts, because sometimes they will just try to take a third with no units. So not only see it with the Zergling, but often you'll deny it for a good 30 seconds. They have to then warp in one more unit and walk it over.
I was used to having more lings early on, and then sending one to each of the thirds. I do normally do that.
Yeah, just make sure you remember to split them off if you don't already have the lings on the map, like as he's coming across the map, if not before then, because it just makes such a big diff, just the couple of dudes. So what should we I mean, I think that would be good, and then just like play whatever your normal game is following it up. But do we want to keep working the Ravager Bane for now? Like I'm someone who I am always a big fan of saying fuck you and giving the middle finger to balance changes and not changing my strategy at all. And just going, no, I'm just going to keep doing my thing until it stops working, like, if I want to. But if I'm genuinely more excited to play a different style... I mean, honestly, there is only 3 styles, right? Ravager Bane, Hydra Bane, and Lurker, Roach Hydra Lurker. There is a 4th. There is Roachling Muta, which is actually very viable off those situations like what we just saw there as well. And that can be... You can go Ravager Bane off that, but it's like... The mutas enable it a lot more, right? Because you're forcing a lot of this, like cannons and maybe Phoenix and all this other stuff, which weakens their ground army against the Ravager Bane as well. And sometimes you win without even getting to the Banelings. It's like, oh, the mutas ran around, forced all this stuff, the Roach Ravager Ling hits and just kills. So that is kind of the 4th composition. I would say those are the 4 standard ways of playing ZvP. Wait, there's a 5th one. Swarmhursts as well, Roach Swarmhurst. But that's one that, yeah, you need to do the Nidus Worm on big maps. So I guess those are the options. Which one of those do you want to work?
Ravager Bane with mutas as a transition, if
okay, a bit more of like a sneaky swap off it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Risky did that the other day, which was cool. He was doing that first probe, the sneaky mutas. Okay, standard. So our standard composition just going to be Ravager Bane. Okay, Ravager Bane with option to muta swap. So it's kind of like a Ravager Bane for life style almost, right? Where it's like, okay, it's not I'm going to swap into Broodlords. It's I'm going to add a round of mutas and just, basically be all about that mid-game mobility and control and big waves. I think that's a good way to play. So I think having those Zerglings seeing the third, I don't think you needed to keep building roaches. You built a big round of drones initially, which was great. And I think we could have just kept building drones from there, especially if you saw, oh, he's going for a third and stuff. So once you've held the early adepts, make sure you got a Ling on each base. Replace those if you didn't already. Make sure you get OVs on the edges of the map. So the bottom of your third, the top of your main in that last game were both exposed. They were both a little bit open. More importantly, an Overseer with your queens to snipe the Observer. You let him kill a creep tumor or two. You didn't punish him for it. And probably send an Overseer to scout as well. Or you could arguably use the same. I like to get an Overseer through their base as well, just to see what's up. And I think your Overlord was still down there on his side of the map. So I guess we can almost have that as a little bit of a set play. What are the most important things there? I've just said 10 little tiny details. Honestly, I think it's just remember to Overseer scout while you're droning up. That's it. So if you're ever at a point where you're like, oh, can I really drone a lot here? Let's just try to remember to squeeze in that Overseer scout.
My lair was really late this game because I forgot to put on the gas in the natural. That's why I get that gas.
Okay.
That's why I get that gas to smooth the lair transition.
Awesome. I think that's really good because even if you see the third, right, every now and then it's like, oh, it's kind of a fake third. You know, they do some really fast blink push or immortal push follow up, whatever it is. Even the immortal adept timing. Cool. Let's hop in and play another game then. I'm gonna give him some instructions. Have you got the invite to the game or not?
Nope.
Okay.
I was just in the replay.
Yeah, no worries. It didn't show you as in the replay. So I'm just sitting there. I'm like, how does he not get the invite? There we go. I'm just thinking about what I'm telling Sher to do here. Okay, cool. I've given him some instructions there on his opening. You know, twist and turn. Make sure he stays not too stiff in his play. Given him permission to do a few different things that he feels comfortable with. You can go Zerg. Yep.
And why didn't he get the hatch block? He went 13 pylon.
Oh, yeah. I guess he was a little slow, right? By the way, you were just slow on the probe, right? With the block. That normally gets down. That normally gets down to block the guy with 13 pylon. I don't know. I haven't actually tested it. I haven't tested it.
I think it does. On
Because I saw
13 pylon.
I saw someone the other day who was like always sending their probe straight across the map. I don't know if it was like Nice or someone. Someone was like always they were just doing a normal 14 pylon, but they were like to just grab one of their first probes, they're like, I will make you take your third base. Like, and I was like, oh, okay. It's like, maybe that's just the option. But yeah, I mean, it was like half a second off. So I think he was probably just slightly slow on his start, to be honest. I don't think it changes too much. But
if they do get the hatch block off,
yeah.
What I'm doing is leaving the drone there at the natural, hit the probe, then hit the pylon and bring another drone down to take the third.
So you're going gas and pool immediately then?
No.
Well, if you do that, your third's going down at like 500 minerals, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds
make a few extra drones, but so
yeah.
So
sounds a bit gross.
I
would go
trying to make them build a pylon and finish it, so it's not free.
Yeah, I mean, you can send a drone straight to the natural to hopefully get that right. Because if they want to go check what else is going on, they can do it. Where, I mean, you could be sneaky and just go out of vision, and then yeah, try to do something. But for me personally, I just go gas pool immediately, and try to force the pylon as well with just that single drone. But yeah, if you don't send another drone down straight away, like the thing is, it just rewards them too much. So especially if they're one of these guys who puts a pylon down and then like maybe even runs over and blocks the normal third. So you're taking your backup third, and it's already massively delayed. It's like really good for the Protoss, I feel. So personally, as soon as I see that drone, I would just go straight to my third base because I just want minimal disruption to my build order. I think it's too easy to mess up your timings against like the Glaive Adepts and stuff if I get that hatchery down too late.
Okay. And same reason, if they pylon block the natural, my third's already down, and then they cancel the pylon. It's not worth cancelling the third and then going to take the natural, is it? It's too late.
Yeah, no, definitely not worth cancelling the hatch. Yeah, some people get really risky with it. They're like, oh, I know he's going to cancel this pylon. And they just like wait out of vision and try to come back. And I'm like, you know, the Protoss can like start the pylon, go check the main, get back there, cancel the pylon beforehand, right? Like, so whenever I see someone doing that, I'm like, this is just hoping the Protoss fucks up. Like, and anytime you're just hoping your opponent shits the bed with your plan, you got to kind of think about it and go, hey, is this a good plan, right? So I think honestly, it's just go straight away and take that third and bring the second drone down to try to force the pylon. And then you'll still usually get them to commit to the pylon. Even if they don't, it's not the end of the world. They have sent that probe across from the very start, right? So some people will go straight, take the third, not react at all. Just get my gas maybe a few seconds faster if I'm a bit worried about the adepts, you know, to get link speed slightly faster. Some people like to do that to help kind of make up for it. But other than that, it's like just try to keep their own rhythm down and not really worry too much. Because, hey, by pulling a probe across that early, that does cost them opportunity cost. So don't get too stressed over forcing the pylon. Just if you keep your order, that's what they want to throw off, right? People get too focused on like mineral for mineral, but it's more about they just want you to start playing bad. That's the real goal. So if you stay focused on your goals, you counter them. So Sure says the probe was there on time, but the patrol path was bad. He says you should be able to 13 pylon. I try to be greedy and do it that way. Okay. He says, but if you go a 12 scout, like really straight right at the start, then you can even block the variations of the 14 hatch that some weird Zergs go for. Cool.
I don't think you can you? 14 hatch before the Overlord.
I don't know. I mean, if they're building 14 hatch before the Overlord, I'm like, why would you even want to block that? It's like trying to block a Zerg who's already butchering his own economy. Like, let him kill his own children, essentially. It's such a shit opening if someone's going 14 hatch before Overlord. I'm like, this is so fucking trash. Like, I don't know, man. I think there's a point where... Yeah?
Lambo said he tested it and it works out the same as having your third, as taking the third before the natural, because it takes longer for the drones to walk from the main to the third.
Really? That's interesting. That's fascinating. I mean, I am a big fan of just going pull first in response to it lately. But yeah, I don't know, man. 14 hatch feels pretty shit. I guess it all depends on the how reliably people are sending probes across at the very start of the game. I think most of the time you can get a 16 hatch down, right? That's why we stick with it. But if people all start 12 scouting and then you can still get a 14 hatch down, obviously, go for the 14 hatch, right? Because you're both blocking what they want to do, you know, and keeping your own rhythm down. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I only go 14 hatch if I know the opponent likes blocking the hatch with the 13 pylon.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it then. Okay. Let's go. Let's do one more game here. So I've given him some instructions and stuff. Yeah, so we're just not going to force the issue with the Roach Ravager. Going to play a bit more of a balanced, you know, Ravager-ling Bane, get the 4th up. Whilst we are adding the Spire, it's more about get melee upgrades, get Bane speed, all that normal stuff, right? He says he's ready. Let's do it. Cool. Yeah, Mutas is more of it's a swap after the first big fight, essentially, right? Awesome. All right. Let's kill some Protoss. GG's. TNT, thank you very much for the 33-month resub, my friend. I really appreciate the support. Big thanks. Yeah, I'll be playing ESL today, guys. Let me sign up for that momentarily. Excuse me. The open number 25. There we go, signed up. What's up, Blocks? Oh, did you just watch the Rogue Scarlet match? High level strategy, mate. How you doing, Sweetwater IPA with the 7-month resub? PP touch, please. Thank you very much. There's actually a lot of different styles you can play in ZvP as a standard kind of mid-game comp. It's kind of cool. Isn't target firing Immortals worth it? Maybe shift clicking them instead of A move. Depends on the situation. I don't know what micro you guys are talking about, but that last engagement that we saw, there was a lot of just getting wrecked by force fields. Apparently the camera was not on there. So we've let Sure go back in his comfort zone here, and this is just going to create more opening disruptions for Lateless, which is good. Yeah, that Rogue Scarlet build is one of the worst builds of all time, Blocks. I've said this to... I'm pretty sure I've said this to Scarlet when she's in my chat. I was like, I was like, you know, that's the dumbest build ever. Thing is, she's like, well, it's Jake's, but you know, it's a Jake build. It's fine. But I think that's such a bad build. I was very happy that NXZ held it when Ender did it. I was like, well, and now we're going to see, because it was this exact same map, actually. NXZ spawned down here, sees the Zergans come out, and I'm like, well, if he knows how to put queens on the ramp and use drones, like, he'll be fine. He put his 2 queens on top of his ramp, put 5 drones on hold position in front of them, and he was doing good, but then he forgot to hold position one of the queens, so the Zerglings shoved them off the ramp, and both queens went down before they got transfused energy, and I was like, oh, okay, there we go. That's... I was like, well, maybe he will lose. Because they got surrounded like just before his reinforcing drones came from the main. Otherwise it would have been awesome. Yeah.
You have a new queen.
So I don't know where this
Show me
Overlord's
those
going.
skills.
Why is this Overlord going up there, I wonder, right? It's very important to have Overlord there, Overlord there, Overlord there. So this Overlord is going to go... Where the fuck are these
forces are
Overlords
taking
going? I think they're both going way out to the
Terrible
left
damage.
somewhere. I'm trying to figure out where that's going. Anyways. Did we get our scout down? So it looks like there's a stalker in the wall. The Overlord obviously can just sacrifice him though and deal with that. The question is though, is he too distracted by the Adept? No, there we go. See, that's what I'm talking about. The Overlord comes in, sees exactly what's up. That's what I'm talking about. That's skirting the edge of Overlord. It's so easy to get the scout. The thing is, even if that sacrifices and the stalker comes and kills it, your Zergling then gets to go in and kill a probe or two. So often you can drive right through that base, get out the arse of the base, hang out in the swamp. Some of you people who live in hotter climates might know about swamp nut. Well, in this case, it's swamp arse. So swamp arse is if you're sitting in a really sweaty classroom as a kid, they don't have air conditioning in your school or it's broken, and it's a real hot day, you get swamp arse eventually. It's also a handy excuse if you do pee your pants. I've heard that one used a few times. They're like, you peed your pants! And then they're like, no, it's just swamp arse. I'm far too pleased with myself. That Roach Warren in second gas just went down. Bit late. Yeah, a little bit late on that. I really want to see a creep tumor spread on the natural. If you can get a creep tumor out here, it's going to be big. You're doing real good. Just make sure you get a creep tumor on your natural, connecting the natural and third. And get some extra OVs ahead of time.
You have a new queen.
So the Overlord coverage sucks balls in my opinion, guys. I really feel like these Overlords are going way too far out where they're just Archon fodder. I think they should have been bam, 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 bam. And then as soon as you realize this is DT Archon, you got to pull these Overlords all back. Otherwise they can get sniped. Lair and drones, where is the lair and drones?
Game paused.
PP. What are your thoughts on the 20 supply third hatch, says Uncle Slim. I think it's pretty shit. Yeah. I think it's really good if you execute it perfectly. I think if you make even slight mistakes, then it can kick up. Give it a minute to settle. Hopefully it calms down. What the hell? Ah. You can test the delay by sending messages and seeing how long between hitting enter and it popping up.
Game resumed.
Hatch block a little later in the roach warren and gas, otherwise good response. Desperately needs to drone up though. So why is he making a baneling nest? What's that about? The fuck?
Your forces are taking damage.
Okay.
Terrible, terrible damage.
Evo and Bane nest way too early. 35 drones only.
Queen
Just shift the priorities.
Our forces are under attack.
Droning, then that tech. No lings on third base. Worked out for us, because then we snipe it. But could have gone the other way, right? Imagine if there was a shield battery and a DT or two there, right? Doesn't get that. So now he gets that. That's really good, but yeah.
You're engaging the opponent. Time to raise your APM.
You're doing great. Remember to send an overseer scout through his base and just keep working your way on up. Keep Zergling spotters on the thirds as well, and just to see any attacks moving out. It's a lot of paths across this map. So he should just win, honestly. Even though he was like pretty low on drones initially after the first hold, I think he should be just fine. He's got good roaches. He's up to 67 drones already. Fourth hatch is arguably a little bit late. I would say that could probably be a bit faster. That's like one thing. You know, if our fourth was faster, that would have been really nice. Wait, I told him about getting creep early. He never got that creep. He got 2 tumors out front the third. Nothing here. This is very awkward. Very awkward not having any creep there. Not a big fan. Not a fan, Latte. Oh my god. Needed a tumor connecting natural to third. Adepts would have been a nightmare to deal with, and queen mobility is severely limited in general here. So our fourth would have been really nice if that was down a little bit earlier, because when we choose, you know, to be defensive, another 10 to 12 drones on that third, on that fourth hatch gives us an epic advantage, since our style is fundamentally a Zergling style. Alright, sure, stop complaining, just play through it. It sucks, we know, that's fine. Fucking stay focused, honestly. The number of really good StarCraft players who spend time complaining in chat about mistakes they make rather than gritting that. Like, this has actually been one of my pet peeves forever. You guys will notice, you know, I don't talk much in chat in game. But even back before I used the core, like, I'd always be practicing with someone and then they'd just be like randomly chatting in the middle of a game, and I'm like, dude, are we fucking sparring or not? You know, like, like, don't get me wrong. Like, if I was doing boxing and someone was talking shit to me while we were sparring, I'd be fine, because you don't punch people with your fucking mouth, you know? But you do in StarCraft. You punch people with your hands. Taking your hands fucking off your keys to type messages when you've got a constant backlog of things you should be doing. I'm always like, I don't know, man. Triggers me when people aren't focused in game. Not the biggest fan of this attack, but I think the timing is going to be enough. Those Banes could have found the sentries a lot easier. I like that bile. He could have done that one earlier. Oh my god, please finish the probes off. Yeah, he ends up getting a lot of dudes, but he's actually, that was a bit of a sloppy attack. That could have been way better executed. So he might die to the counter now. No, he's got enough. It's only 2 Archons. Oh! Sure, tried to pick up a bit late there. Got used to the lag. Yeah, this was like, it was, in terms of numbers, it was a pretty good attack, but I honestly think this was the sort of attack where if he just broke the natural wall and sent Bane, like 10 Banes in there after the first wave of force fields rather than just headbutting into it would have been great. I think trying to attack with so many units through that choke just made no sense, right? I think he should have been trying to use this area and breach the natural would have been the pattern for that attack. Did he end up getting a spire or nah? So he never built the spire. It's also something where, like, you can see he's kind of like just wanting to headbutt right now. So this is both good and bad. So it's really good to trade while the Protoss army is small, but this is like the most disjointed, shitty attack I've ever seen. So what is he doing right now? Like, don't get me wrong, the Protoss is weak right now, so it's good to fight. But it feels like he thinks he's all in, where it's like, well, we actually could just build 20 more drones right now and take a 5th base. You know, we already killed a ton of workers. So, like, what are we doing right now is the big question. Like, why are we... Got to take a deep breath and fall back. You need a 5th hatchery. If you can finish saturating those minerals on your 4th base. So after killing all those probes before, we didn't need to attack like that. And we've just got to be a bit more organized. At the moment, we're attacking as if we're down 20 workers when we were up 20 workers. Oh.
Yeah, just replying. I always go all in like this.
Yeah.
If the early game went fairly smoothly, then yeah.
Well, the first attack was not as well executed as it could have been, but it was fine as a timing. So it could have been executed better, but it was fine as a timing. But after you killed all the workers on his 3rd, but you just thrown away a lot of army there, it was just one of those ones where it's like, hey, let's be a bit more careful. But you kind of rallied into him with that 2nd wave. Like, you were just kind of rallying across the map and going in a few, like the Ling Bane hit, then the Roaches hit, then some more Roaches hit. So just try to be a bit more organized. Just take a deep breath and go, hey, wait a second. If I've already killed all the workers on his 3rd, if I get a 5th and just keep building this worker advantage, you know, that's going to be massive. It's also something where if we'd had the Spire for a Muta swap, like that would have played into this really well. But even just playing Ravager Ling Bane for the rest of this game, if you get a 5th up and kind of work that worker advantage, if he ever moves out right now, like it's going to be very hard for him to defend natural wall, 3rd wall, right? There's a good chance of small Baneling Ling run bys just finding big probe damage. And if you ever surround him on creep, your army will be, you know, doubly, triply as efficient, right? So just try to make sure we're not overextending here. As long as he doesn't take a 4th nexus, sorry, like, you know, we're ahead economically. We just need to kind of set ourselves up. So if we're going to do that, it's a shift in gears where there's a lot of details which are missing. We need a few more drones on minerals. We need overlords on the edges. Right now we have very little vision. We don't know where the prism is on the map. So, you know, if we do one more attack like this, and while it's happening, even if it looks okay, 8 zealots get into a mineral line and we don't have new units popping, we'll just lose the game in a sudden moment, right? So I think if we can just kind of take a breath here and just be a little bit more calculated with the next engagements, we should still be in a really good position.
Okay.
Cool. All right.
Game resumed.
I mean, obviously one of our first things we worked on in our sessions together was trying to commit more to those Ravager Bane attacks. But it's just something where it's like there's committing and the first attack, like I said, it's good that he was attacking, it just wasn't well executed. The second one was just a mess. That was very poorly executed. So we've got to make sure we maintain some semblance of organization in how we do this. And remember, I just pointed this out. I was like, hey, how can we not have overlords out on the edges and stuff, right? And, you know, we should have zerglings on where these potential 4th bases are and that sort of stuff.
Time Here comes a new challenger.
So, first timing attack. I felt like about 70% of our army tried to go through a tiny choke. So what should we have done? Hit the natural, bust that wall, and get, you know, 15 to 20 Banes in the main and natural mineral line. Make him come out into the open to defend. So that would have been huge.
Looks like we're going to the lake.
Second timing attack. Massively disjointed and awkward. Would have been perfect to swap into mutas, or to just drone up and start hive tech. Even just droning, even the second attack itself could have been fine, just needed to be set up better. Colossus are actually really shit versus roaches, for those who don't know, because there's a lot of storm, and that's going to be the big thing here. So right now he's just doing no backstabs at all, and he's maxed out, so this is a huge problem.
That field's been mined out. Hope you have an expansion. Your forces are taking damage. Terrible, terrible damage.
So all these Zerglings should be turning into Banelings. The only way you win this fight is with like 80 Banes. If you can get 80 Banes flanking that, you'll be good. But notice he's letting himself get pulled into a front on. Like, there's nothing for him to defend right now, and yet he's attacking into it piecemeal. He could have pulled back, split half of his army around the top. Instead, he's just engaged it with 1/4 of his army at a time on one direction. So he's been baited into setting up the flank while the fight's happening.
Your forces are under attack.
Where there's no reason for him to fight there.
Your
You
drones
can
are under
always pull back.
Talk about your warriors have engaged the enemy.
Yeah. Big defense. Just pull back and reset up the flank.
Can I really stay on this comp all game and just do that first attack, then go to 80 drones? Because the second wave of that attack, he had Colossus and Disruptor, and I feel that this comp is
Let's go right back.
really has a timer on it.
It's all just about the details. There definitely is a timer on it, but it's just we've just got to improve the attacks. That's the main thing here. Like, definitely a little bit more patience, but I think there's two things that are happening. So let's get into the replay straight away. Since we're on delay, we can't watch on the stream, so I got to get in that replay so we can show these fights. Did you rewind?
Yeah, I did. Oh, I've just left.
Yeah, hop
You're,
out.
you're,
so
the,
we
you're the
can
host anyway.
We can watch with others. Yep. There we go. So the thing here is, because you don't trust the composition enough, you're doubting it. You're getting too overeager and too like, I gotta win right now, and that's actually the problem. So you are absolutely correct in all of your analysis. This is a short-term comp. You can't just chill forever on it. Those are correct assertions. The problem is you're just going a little bit too desperate with when you're attacking. That's it. So like it's not that you're not trying to trade. We do want to trade. We do want to force fights at these times that you're going for. I just want you to be like 10% more patient, right? This is like, I don't want you to change the overall plan. I want you to be just a little better at setting up the attack. Just a little more chill with how you're setting those attacks up. If you can do that, this is going to be way better for you, okay? So that's it. Is like, let's make that first attack better. The first attack was good. Like, I was looking at it, I was going, oh, I'm not sure about this angle, but I'm also really proud of the fact that you're committing as hard as you are, because you had a clean opening in your head and it was the right time to attack. So you attacked the right time decisively. We just could have done it better. The second attack was where it started to feel super over urgent, where you were like, I gotta go right now. And if you like waited 30 seconds to just let the rest of your army kind of come across the map and do it, it would have been a little bit cleaner. So this is not about changing the overall understanding of the game for you. It's about peeling back your urgency 10% and just being a little bit more calculated.
This is not the first game I've played which goes like this. a clean early game, then the first attack kind of works and the second one works less, and then just peter out. So.
Well, honestly, I mean, the thing is, your problem used to be not committing to those attacks, right? So the fact that you are committing hard is great, and the first attack, like I said, a bit could be improved, but overall it was still pretty good. But it was after that where it definitely started to peter off a little bit. So let's look at the attacks first of all. So the main thing, so I guess at the start we should have had Zerglings, right, on the bases, because we did let him get that third for free. So if he happened to have like a DT or two there with that Adept or a shield battery finished, we might not have got the cancel on the third, and this would have just been an unnecessarily harder game where, you know, if we knew that third was going up earlier, there's less chance of him getting up that potential defense. So as good as this worked out for us, just that small little hole, make sure there's the Zerglings on those third bases. The other big thing here in terms of standard setup, creep connecting the natural and the third, so important.
Yeah. Whenever I get disrupted like this, the hatch is blocked, or I lose a few drones, and I'm sorry, I need to go to a corner of the map. My response is to keep spending the lava and cut the queens.
I think that's not a bad choice. You just need to get that second tumor down at some point, connecting there, because it's just a disaster if it was glaive adepts, or even if it's just with the prism rotates, it's just such a pain moving the queens between the natural and third. So it's something which is very common to miss, and I actually think you're prioritizing the correct thing, right? Because of what you just said there, you know?
So the first queen which pops from the third should lay a tumor rather than inject.
Not necessarily.
Or is double inject still okay?
I think double inject's totally fine. It just comes down to making sure you get the tumor sometime like before 4 minutes, before 5 minutes essentially, right? Just before the DTs and the glaive adepts are there. As long as the tumor's placed by that point, I think you're fine. So maybe that's, as the third queen pops out, she puts the second tumor down or something like that. What do you think works for you?
That's fine. That's the normal time I drop a tumor anyway.
Yeah, you just put a second queen at the third. So if you just put that tumor in between the bases instead, I'd be totally fine with that. Just as long as you don't delay it too long.
So normal time, but first tumor goes between the bases rather than out front of the third if they block the natural.
Yeah, first or second, any one of the two. I was happy for you to go creep out front your third. Your first tumor was great. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, get this creep out front. As long as your other tumor, the second one, fills the gap in, you'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I end up with a third before the natural, I often even actually spread a tumor from my main. You don't need to on this map because your main's so close to your natural that the creep is naturally connected. But there are maps where there's like a pretty big gap, right? So in those cases, I'm like, oh man, I'm going to start a tumor in my main nice and early to connect it to my natural and get it going down towards my third from there. So it's whatever works for you. So first Ravager Bane attack, like I said, really awesome. We committed to this. Now, there is an excuse for why you get a little bit overeager here as well, and that is, of course, he does this Zealot Archon counter attack. But if we look at this attack, you can already see what's wrong with it, right?
The Banes are all in the back.
And not just the back, it's the right-hand side. None of them are on the left, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're going through the tiniest choke point. That's like a single force field wall off almost. So if we think about that, that's almost like trying to force the majority of our army up the main base ramp. We'd look at that as insane, right? With these two gateways here, this is almost the same size choke point. It basically is between the gateways and the trees there. So this is just a situation where we should naturally have more units on the left. That's the bigger choke point. It's also something where I just look at this and I go, hey, if they pull back into their third like this, they're not defending their natural. So whenever I look at this third base here in general, especially if they've got a wall off in front of it, which they normally will, I always look at the area between the natural and the third and say, look, if you don't come out here and defend, like normally with this attack you're doing, I'm looking at it in terms of saying, how am I going to set up the army to surround out here? Because that's where they should be able to defend. If they can't defend there, I should be able to isolate their bases. And unless they're a god of microing like force fields and immortals popping out on the natural at the same time as force fielding the ramp to their third, usually one of those sides is going to get cracked and, you know, you've got probes in the open and exposed. So what I would have liked here is maybe 80% of your army up on the high ground and going straight for the natural. Once you identify where the army is. So one of the big things that's really good when you go for these attacks is if you can send changelings or an overseer ahead manually, or even individual Zerglings, and figure out where they are. But I naturally send all, if not most of my army up to that high ground. And then especially seeing his army there, I'd be like, yeah, cool, go up there with almost everything. And I'd almost focus just on setting a concave up on that high ground and say, come up the ramp into my Ravager Biles And a section of that army, I'll just crash straight through into the natural and try to get some Lings and Banes and stuff into those worker lines. Because then he has to come out into the open.
The way I've been thinking is go for the third, because that's going to be the easiest place to roll Banes into the mineral line.
And I mean, if he was out in the open, it would be. So if you were able to lure him over to the left, I think having a small squad of Banelings over here clicked straight into that mineral line would be great. But if he gets to focus his army just in one little blob like that, we see how good it is for him to do force fields, right? We've made the fight very simple for him, whereas it's going to get way more convoluted and complicated if we kind of came in from more angles. And you can see he's not even force fielding the left-hand side. If he overcharged here as well, that would have been very nice. But we did end up biling it down.
So on most maps or on every map, go by default go to between the natural and the third.
Kind of depends on the map a little bit, but in general, yes. Because there's just this thing where if the Protoss is really good at pulling back into like a nice little pocket or a Sim City or anything, if we focus everything on trying to break one choke point, it's just Protoss's dream. So in general, we want to avoid that wherever possible. Because I think you could have won the game here or done even more damage. You know, at least taken out like all the Immortals, right? Or killed every probe on this third. You killed most. And I think it was still playable from here, but I just think this could have been even more brutal, where he just gets absolutely rolled. So, yeah, I think in general, go for the big area between the bases and try to, like, split units into the natural and third where possible. And the thing is, if he's in the open at all, even if he's just halfway between the natural and third, coming in with the army slamming in from both sides is absolutely the right call, the way you did it, right? It's just, he needs to have committed to the open, right? If they're tucking themselves in behind a nexus or something, if they tuck themselves in behind their natural wall, cool. We're not going to crack that wall. We'll just chill out here, send a third of our army to kill the third base, right? So it's his job to control the space in between his expansions. In that case, it's all about just surround the army and crash everything into it. He pulls back into a more defensible position. We switch gears into, no, screw you. I'm just going to kill your probes then. I'm going to crack your defense on one of these other sides that you're not properly covering and then force you to come out into the open to defend it. So we could have done more there. Yep.
So set up in a position where I can commit to different areas.
Yes.
So I could commit to breaking the third. If I break the natural wall, then I can get Lings in the main and natural mineral lines.
Yeah.
And identify where the army is and commit.
Yeah. And we see your second attack is also half-baked. The Roach Ravager's not even there. Our Banelings are all in the same control group as our Roach Ravager. Normally you would have those Banelings on a separate control group, right? Because you'd kind of box and spread your units out to come in from both sides. And then you'd be, you know, clicking those Banelings in. And I know you do often control click your Banelings in pretty well anyway. But I think the main thing here was just our attack being disjointed. The Roach Ravager isn't there, and the Banelings just come in a blob. So it was a few Zerglings trickled in, then a blob of Banelings all together, and then Roach Ravager behind. And this was just us being over-eager.
I see Colossus or Disruptor, and I panic and think, oh, I need to kill him now.
Yeah. I think just you've got more time than you realize. So if you set that attack up, because I think it was still a good time to fight. You just wait 20 seconds, you know? Let a few more Banelings morph, spread your units out on both sides, and then collapse on it, right? Why is it a good time? Because you already took out all the probes on his third, but you killed all the sentries and Archons. You kind of cleared the complexity out of his army. So I think this was awesome. It's a good time to fight again, but at the same time, imagine if we built a Spire, and as a general rule, what my rule is, if you can make a Spire as you're moving out with your first attack, you're almost always, by the time that attack fizzles, going to be able to make a big round of mutas. And you could be like, oh, but then I can make, 6 less Banes or 8 less Banes or whatever. I don't think it matters, personally. It's up to you, of course, how much you want to hinge on each attack, right? But I honestly feel like even on just 65 workers here, if you once you set this attack up, if you've got a Spire already halfway done, and you're like, cool, set the attack up, and then you can build around a drones, okay, obviously you're dealing with a Prism right now, but imagine this Prism wasn't here. You could even, send drones over to the fourth, take both gases, micro your fight. As soon as the fight's done, build around a drones, straight into a big round of mutas, or the other way around if the spire's already done. And and then you've got mutas hitting their mineral line, and it's just, it gives you this huge problem for them to deal with, and you're kind of like, cool, I'm going to drone up to 80 drones now, and then go for more Ravagerling Bane aggression. And there is maybe still the eventual idea of swapping into Hive, but that really is something that I don't think we need to focus on, because if you get enough economy lead, you'll be really good. The other thing is, if you ever get in a position where you're like, oh, it's a bit dicey, he's building that good Colossus Disruptor army, not so confident against that. So what can you do in the follow-up to that? What are some things that you can focus on as a player? Well, run buys, keep Zerglings out. Oh, he's going for a fourth cool, set yourself up for run buys. So if you do ever get to the point where you're not just attacking, well, what are we missing in this game in general? Overlords are not positioned on the edges in general in the early game, which is an issue. Doesn't mean even in the early game, DTs and Archons could have been counter-attacking you. But the other thing is, after this stage, you really do want to be looking for their worker lines and stuff with Ling Bane run bys and stuff like that. So you can see his third's wide open, right? If we rolled in there with Banes right now, probably going to kill a fair lot of probes. And this is especially when he moves out on the map as well. You want to still have at least some little squads of, even if it's just 5 or 10 Banes rolling in here or there, just to kind of say, hey, actually push into me, mate. You've actually got to commit to this. You can't just screw around. So the final one, and we do have to finish up, so this is going to be the very last point. Just be very patient when he does go for this sort of push. Have faith in the power of the Baneling. Even though I know this is a very non-ideal situation, you're on Ravager Bane, doesn't feel great. You've got far too many roaches at this point as well. The way you're going to make this work is having an insane number of Banelings, right? So if you can get like 70 Banes, every Zergling should be made into Banelings at this point. It's all about setting up a giant surround. If you ever find yourself on too many roaches, make sure, even before this army comes across, if not now, grab 12 of those roaches, 13, go run them into his base. Try to do a run by. A big section of roaches running into an expansion usually trades quite well. And then just look for the one perfect surround, and that's it. Look for a 2-3-sided surround. If you can just split your army into 2 or 3 control groups, like what happened here, obviously, he rotated his army. You got a bit surprised, but you also got over-eager. With these sort of attacks, let them push right in on top of a hatch. It's all about just being mega patient. Set up that surround. You can tell we panicked here. After running into that army, it was still totally okay. There was still a chance here. But we got really overeager. And notice how you fight with one section of your army, one directionally into him. And we kind of feed him our Zerg units. Should have let him come in.
I was
really
despairing at this point.
Yeah. Just honestly, dude. Trust me, Ravagerling Bane, you'll make some undeserved comebacks if you're really patient on creep. Same thing with Hydra Bane. I forget just how frustrating it. If a Protoss player actually commits deep on creep, they are offering you an olive branch. They're saying, "Would you like a chance to still win this video game?" So yeah, there's always a chance on creep, man. You set up that 270, that 360 degree surround. It's the levels of cost efficiency just go up so insanely, man. And Banelings do still kill Colossus and Stalkers, even with the nerf. But yeah, honestly, I think let's be a bit better at controlling space between the expansions. Great pullback to a one-angled fight by Sure there. So make sure if they're not out in the open, if they're not covering both bases, it's more about hitting the weak point and forcing them into the open, right? If they're out in the open, you focus more on crushing and surrounding that army. But if they pull back in one direction, you've got to change gears and go pull back into the open space, split a section of our army off to go fuck up their natural, or if they're on the side of their third, fuck up their third. And that's going to force them into the open. You're going to find good fights and hopefully kick some asses.
Okay, so be a bit more patient with these attacks. Doesn't mean committing.
5%. Take 10.
Just timing it better. Have the muta transition there. Drone up.
Yeah.
And if they're moving out, then do run bys.
Yeah, and I really like this.
Otherwise, just be annoying with the mutas and attack somewhere else.
Perfect. And I love the scouting.
going.
You were doing really good with the early game, so I think you did really good there. Keep that up.
Yeah, I just with the first overlord, I just saw the robo and I thought, well, that's not going to be your first tech at this time. So.
Yeah, and then you actually did see the Twilight as well. I'm not sure if you noticed it, because you went in enough to see the Twilight and then turned around, but you already knew with the Robo timing, it has to be Twilight Robo.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome, mate. Dude, I think honestly, like I said, I've drawn up, have the muta swap, all that stuff is secondary. keep refining those engagements, okay? So first engagement, take 10% of the power off it, add 10% precision. Same thing when it comes to the second attack, slow it down 20, 30 seconds, get nicely set up, Bane's Ravagers on both sides, and then go again. I think you're going to have a lot more success with this.
Great.
Awesome sauce,
Okay,
mate.
thank you. Thank you.
No worries. Have a good night, brother.
Have a good stream.
All right. That was a really fun one, guys. Just looking at those engagements. Hope this helps some of you all out. And yeah, we'll catch you in the next video.